Whatever is there is what is on the big screen here.
Okay.
And then you can just use that. And that big one will take it forward and that one will take you back.
Wait, which one is
The big
forward?
one is forward. And then that one goes back.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll be over there somewhere. I'm trying to get a light to get the TV a bit brighter because it's not
Is
as
there a
bright.
way of making it big?
It's bigger.
Yeah.
Is that better?
You are still making bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the next slide. This is the current one.
Yeah. Just keep this here.
Good evening and welcome to our talk this evening in this month of March. And our topic today is Judge Not, that you may not be judged, a Christian response to non-violent communication. And this topic is going to look at moralistic judgment as a form of communication that fosters enemy images and blocks compassion. A Christian response to situations that lead to judgment is the gospel non-violence, which promotes love of enemy. Love is nurtured by communication, and this topic offers us the opportunity to explore non-violent communication, which provides skills for communication that promotes love and compassion instead of judging people's actions. When people act, they are attempting to communicate their needs to us. However, the language human beings have learned to communicate their needs might be judgmental. So nonviolent communication supports people with language that could transform our communication from judgment to expressing needs in a non-violent way. What I just read out is the abstract that Sister Lilian Ehidiamen, who is going to talk to us this evening, gave to us. And who is Sister Lilian Ehidiamen? Sister Lilian Ehidiamen is originally from Nigeria and is a member of the Congregation of Sisters for Christian Community. She is certified trainer on nonviolent communication with the Center for Nonviolent Communication, Austin, Texas, in the United States. And she majors in theological ethics with specific interest in social and peace ethics from the Faculty of Theology and Religious Studies, Leuven, Belgium. And her research focuses on how non-violent communication can contribute to Catholic social teaching on peace. Her academic orientation revolves paying attention to experiences of people from their frame of reference, that is their context, and its relationship to their belief system. And this is realized through focusing on people's needs, bringing them into dialogue with academics in an interdisciplinary manner. Sister Lilian is interested in contributing to the realization of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 4 and 16, and she is currently teaching religious education at St. Ignatius College, Enfield, in London. So Sister Lilian has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and that is what she has come to share with us tonight. So I want you to join me in welcoming Sister Lilian Ehidiamen to speak to us tonight. So welcome, Sister. And just before we begin, I will invite Charles Whitehead to say a prayer for us to begin this talk.
So let's just pray for Sister Lilian as she comes to speak to us. Heavenly Father, we bring Sister Lilian before you now in a very special way. We raise her up. We ask you to pour the Holy Spirit upon her, to bless her, to bring to mind all the things she's prepared to say to us tonight. And we ask you, Lord, that we may have open minds and open hearts to receive her message. So bless her, Lord, we pray, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Bless you, Lord.
I'm glad to be in your midst this evening to share this reflection with you. This topic is so dear to my heart, and I guess it's also dear to you too. We are going to reflect together on the topic, Judge Not, that you may not be judged, taken from Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. A Christian response through non-violent communication. So we are going to look at a brief introduction, then what is judging others about, then non-violent communication, which is popularly known as NVC. NVC and Christian teachings. Then we will look at NVC in daily life. Then we will have discussion and reflection, and then conclude. So before we begin, I would like us to do a brief check-in because this topic is for all of us. We are all reflecting on it together. So I invite you to think of 3 names, judgmental labels someone has called you recently or which you have called someone else. Just note them down. Just take 2 minutes to reflect on those labels. For example, he is lazy, she is selfish, she is inconsiderate. Those popular labels we use for referring to one another. So think about 3 of them. Then after 2 minutes, I'm going to ask some of us, maybe about 2 persons, who would be willing to share the labels he or she has noted down, and then we will take it up from there. So just take 2 minutes to note down 2 or 3 labels. Okay, so is there any of us who would like to share some of those labels he or she has written down? Just indicate by a show of hands. Okay, Sue.
My sister worries too much.
Your sister worries too much. If you say this to your sister, how do you feel using this expression?
She probably would agree because it's in contrast to me. So we would see that as a contrast between us.
Okay.
So I'm saying judgmentally she should stop it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. Any other person that would like to share another label? I'm too busy. When you tell somebody, I am too busy, what actually are you trying to communicate to that person. Okay. That you need time, you need space, and so on. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Sometimes when we use these expressions, some people may find it difficult to understand what we are trying to communicate. In the real sense, we are trying to communicate our needs. Maybe I'm too busy, need for space, need for understanding, need for support, and so on. So in this presentation, we are going to learn some other ways which we can communicate this in a way that our listeners will feel connected to the needs we are trying to express. So these ways, these words we use, like, he is selfish. When I say somebody is selfish, it's not about the person, it's about my need for consideration. But when I tell someone, you are selfish, I am actually trying to express my needs in a judgmental way, which is tragic and can easily disconnect the listener from me. So when we look at the topic, judge not, that you will not be judged. When I tell somebody, you are selfish, you are inconsiderate, I am judging the person, telling that person he or she is wrong. So what is actually judging others? Judgment refers to evaluating others in terms of right or wrong. We've been trained, we've been conditioned to judge people in terms of right and wrong. These are the two paradigms that are available to us in our communication with ourselves and with others. He is right, he is wrong, he is correct, he is normal, he is abnormal, and so on. This is how we've been raised and conditioned, and this is the language we speak. However, Jesus is saying to us in Matthew 7:1, judge not, that you may not be judged. From time to time, we are quick to judge ourselves, and we are also quick to judge others. Life is about communication. It's about relationship. So what we communicate every day to one another is our needs. However, the language we've learned to communicate our needs is sometimes judgmental. Understanding Jesus' teaching on judgment and compassion is very important. When we learn not to judge people in terms of right and wrong, we will be more compassionate to ourselves and to others. I remember a quote from Mother Teresa of Calcutta that if we are busy judging people, we will find it difficult to love them. So Jesus is inviting us to learn to be compassionate, especially in the way we communicate our needs, without using judgmental language. So, diverse reasons have been proposed as the purpose for the exhortation not to judge others. Why is Jesus telling us not to judge? One, there are three reasons: lack of adequate facts, such as circumstances and knowledge about the other. If I tell someone you are selfish, maybe for example, there are 3 oranges for 3 persons, and someone walk in, pick 2 oranges, which may not be enough for the 3 persons. I may say, oh, you are selfish. Why will you pick 2 oranges instead of 1? Without actually trying to find out why did this person pick 3 oranges. So if I try to actually check with the person, I may discover that he may have a visitor that he wants to give the orange to. So it's important not to judge, rather to seek clarity. Why did you do this? Again, another reason, nobody is entirely impartial in judgment, because a person can be emotional at the subconscious level, which could affect his or her judgment. Sometimes our way of thinking can also affect the way we are thinking about the other person, placing a different label which actually does not communicate our needs to the person. Then no one is faultless, and as such has the audacity to judge others. We are not perfect. I can commit the same mistake that I'm judging the other person for. So awareness of this helps us to know how to communicate our needs to others. So instead of judging others, nonviolent communication supports us with skills in applying this verse: judge not, that you may not be judged. So nonviolent communication is a communication approach developed by Marshall Rosenberg. He was an American Jew. He developed this way of communication based on his experience of violence in his environment. That he decided to study people who were close to him, very compassionate, even when they are experiencing difficult situations. They still try to stay connected to themselves without expressing themselves in a violent way. And also, he tried to do some research. So through that, he came with the principles of non-violent communication. It's really very popular today in the world, and many people are trying to understand what it is and how to apply it to their life. So non-violent communication focuses on the use of language. Our life is about communication. We use communication to maintain relationship. My way of communicating with you can draw me close to you, or it can disconnect me from you. And what are we communicating? Our needs. What kind of language do we use? So nonviolent communication focuses on empathy, active listening, and avoiding judgmental language. Today in the world, people are too busy to listen. Sometimes we find it difficult to really pay attention to even what is happening within us. A lot is happening. Nonviolent communication invites us to pay attention to what is going on within us, what is happening within me, and then what is happening to the other person, what is happening within the other person. So nonviolent communication encourages connection, mutual understanding, and compassion. Again, what helps us to achieve this connection? Language, the way we communicate. We are now looking at the core principles of nonviolent communication. So there are 4 basic principles in the process of nonviolent communication. So the first one is observation versus evaluation. So instead of using evaluation language, judging people, telling them, you are wrong, you are selfish, you are lazy, nonviolent communication invites us to use observation language. Simply state what you observed. Initially, I used the example of one picking 2 oranges out of 3 oranges meant for 3 people. If you want to express that, instead of telling the person, you are selfish, you picked 2 oranges, you can just describe using observation language by saying, I noticed you picked 2 oranges instead of 1. I'm wondering why you decided to pick 2. When you express your observation in this manner, the person is likely to explain to you why he or she did that. If you tell the person you are selfish, you get into an argument and the person will immediately begin to defend himself. So nonviolent communication gives us the first step, which is observation, that we need to describe what we see. Describe, when you focus a camera on an object, you are able to describe what you are seeing through that camera. The same way, we have been invited to express our experience, describing what it is without attaching any label. When I say, oh, she is lazy, anyone hearing me will think this person is just good for nothing, cannot do anything. It's so ambiguous to use that language. This person is lazy. If I describe what the experience, for instance, she has the function of sweeping the room in the morning, and I have noticed 3 times this week she didn't sweep the room. I am expressing observation. If I say she is lazy, the person listening to me will not even understand. I am expressing my experience of the person not sweeping the room 3 times this week. So nonviolent communication encourages us to use observation language. Just describe. Be very specific when you are relating your experience. So we observe the world we experience using our sense organs. Like when you hear something, describe what you heard. When you see something, describe what you saw. When you taste something, describe what you tasted. So that is expressing observation. Then the second step is feelings. When we have an experience, you immediately begin to have some feelings. As you are looking at me and I am looking at you, there are some feelings that are already coming up for you. Maybe feeling of wondering where is she taking us to, and so on. So feelings are emotions that we experience in our body. When we have an experience, it immediately sends message to your body and you have feelings. Sometimes, depending on the context we've been raised, we've been taught not to pay attention to our feelings. Nonviolent communication, again, is inviting us the importance of paying attention to your feelings because they are very important. When you have an experience, it evokes some feelings in you. That takes us to the next step, which is needs. How do we know our needs? Feelings are messengers pointing us to our needs. When I am upset, is a feeling. It's telling me there is an unmet need. Maybe need for consideration, need for attention. It could be need for support or need for anything. So needs is at the heart of communication. According to Marshall Rosenberg, when people speak or when people act, they are just saying 2 things. Please help me to meet my need. And thank you for helping me to meet my need. So need is what motivates human action. We are all sitting here, listening to one another. We are here to meet one need or the other. Need for learning, need for curiosity, need for growth, need for community, and so on. So nonviolent communication provides us with the language to really stay connected to the why behind our action. So need is the why behind our action. So whatsoever a human being does is an attempt to meet a need or needs. Every day we eat. When I eat, what need am I trying to meet? Need for nourishment. Every day I go to work. What need am I trying to meet? Need for contribution, need for support, and a whole lot of needs around that. Every day, or maybe once a week, depending on how I want it, I go to church. Why do I do this? Need for community, need for spirituality. I am a Catholic. Someone else may be a Muslim or a Hindu. Why have we chosen this different religion to, why have we chosen different religions? Why is Christianity important to me? Why is Islam important to the other person? It's because Christianity meets my need for spirituality. Islam meets the other person's need for spirituality. So when I speak to people about religion and need, nobody needs to fight or kill the other about the religion the person is practicing. They are all strategies for meeting needs. What need? Spirituality. So it depends on what connects the individual to that divine being we have that attachment to. If Christianity connects me, fine and good. It's like one is hungry. One person may choose to eat potato, another person may choose to eat beans. They are all strategies for meeting needs, for nourishment. So when we speak about needs, we speak about strategies. Needs are universal. Whether you are white, black, whether, as far as you are a human being, we all have the same need. I have need for comfort, you have need for comfort. I have need for warmth, you have need for warmth. I have need for community, you have need for community. We all have the same needs. Where we have problem and conflict is the strategies we've chosen to meet different needs. So we speak about needs and strategies. If people are fighting today, having conflict, it's coming from the type of strategies they have chosen to meet their needs. So at the heart of nonviolent communication is need. How do we identify these needs? How do we know the strategies to use for meeting needs? We have 1,001 strategies for meeting a particular need. Sometimes people are just fixed. It must be this one strategy, and that is where we have conflict. If you think, what actually is the best strategy I can use for meeting a particular need, you explore and choose the less conflicting strategy that will support you and the next person to you. So these are the pieces of skills that help us to communicate non-violently. Then once you have been able to identify your need through feelings, we have feelings that are pleasant and we have feelings that are unpleasant. If your needs are met, you just discover that you're having pleasant feelings, you are joyful, you are happy, you are feeling inspired, and so on. So whenever you are having such a pleasant feeling, reflect deep. What is the need that is being met? If you are having an unpleasant feeling, go deep to check with yourself, what is my unmet need? Anger is very powerful. It helps us to really understand what is that deep need that is not being met at this moment that I am feeling angry. Once you are able to identify your needs, you go for the next step, which is making requests. So request is the fourth step in the principles of nonviolent communication. Making clear, compassionate, and non-coercive requests. Request is different from demand. We are used to making demand. Get the work completed by 2 p.m. You must go to the market to do this. Non-violent communication encourages us to make requests. Would you be willing to get the work done by 2? I am opening a space for dialogue, for the person to tell me, I may not be able, based on this reason. Would you be willing to give me time till 3 o'clock? But if I say, make sure you get the work done by 2, I am not giving the space to the other person to discuss whatsoever may be a constraint in getting that work done. So nonviolent communication is interesting. It helps us to be more connected to ourselves, to be compassionate, to reflect deep, to identify our needs that our feelings are directing us to. So I'd like us to go back to the 3 names or labels, depending on how many you just want to work with, which you have identified at the beginning of this presentation. How did you feel when you were called those names? Maybe someone may have called you a name that you didn't like, or may have said something to you that really got you angry or worried and so on. So I'd like you to maybe think of a situation or an experience you had recently, an unpleasant experience or a pleasant one. Just take a moment to think about it. For example, I'm just looking for an example. Okay, for example, when I was coming, I didn't know the Ulster would not take me to this place. Only when I entered the train that they said, oh, the Ulster will take you up to Ruislip, West Ruislip, and I will need to get a ticket to this place. Immediately I heard it, I tried immediately to connect with myself. I felt worried because, first of all, I didn't know, and I know it has implication not tapping my Ulster again because I've tapped it somewhere and so on. So, because I'm aware of what was going on within me, feeling worried, because my needs, I really want to meet my need for authenticity, that I need to pay for my transport. So that awareness of my feeling and connecting with my need for authenticity and also contributing to the transport I used, I now started thinking, what am I going to do? So when I came down from the train, I met the person at the station and explained to them that I didn't know the Ulster will expire somewhere and will not take me to this place. What do I do? He said, okay, check the back of your Ulster. There is a number there. Try and call them tomorrow and so on. So that immediately solved my problem, that I've been able to identify the way forward. We've been doing all these things, connecting with our needs. So nonviolent communication helps us to really continue to live that reflective life, to dig deeper, to understand our needs based on our experience and our feelings, and being able to ask people to help us. Again, making requests. When we are making requests, we really need to be clear about what we are asking for and use positive language to ask people to contribute to our needs. For example, if I say, please help me, what am I asking you for help for? I need to be specific and let you know I am hungry, I need food. Would you be willing to give me some food? I am being specific, expressing my needs. So when we are expressing our needs, it's important to be specific and use positive language. If I say, I don't want to eat rice in this house anymore, I'm not really being specific about my request. I need to be specific. If I don't want to eat rice, what do I want to eat? That is what I need to communicate. I would like to eat potatoes. That is being specific, not using a negative language. So nonviolent communication invites us to really be clear about our expression, about the way we communicate our needs to others. So how NVC aligns with Christian teachings. Nonviolent communication is, again, very interesting. In nonviolent communication, I found a full expression of the commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. It encourages empathy and understanding. That word, love your neighbor as yourself, for me initially seems very vague. How do we do that? When I am thinking about my need, I need to also be aware that the other person has needs. So it enables me to be in touch with my needs and with the needs of the other person. And that is what compassion is about. Compassion. Be aware that I need want. He needs want. How do we bring all this together so that all our needs are met? Then speaking the truth in love, communicating with kindness and clarity, as I've already explained. Nonviolent communication enables us not to judge people, rather to express our needs in kindness, using a language that does not disconnect us from ourselves and disconnect us from others. Blessed are the peacemakers, promoting peace through mindful speech. So when we learn to use this language of compassion, language that expresses real needs, through that we are contributing to peace. We are fulfilling the beatitude, blessed are the peacemakers. So as Christians, we've been called, we've been invited to follow the footsteps of Christ. Today, in the church returns to non-violence, the gospel non-violence. Love your enemies. How do we do that? Do we start judging those that didn't meet our needs, that are not behaving in a way that suits us? Non-violent communication invites us to still see this person as a human being with dignity, connecting with our needs, connecting with the needs of the other. If that person have had the same education or the same training or awareness that I have, the person may not be acting the way he or she is acting. So seeing people, connecting with people's needs is important. It helps us not to judge them, rather to actually find out, why is this person acting this way? What is the need of this person? So applying nonviolent communication in daily Christian life. It's important as Christians to really practice Jesus' invitation, judge not, that you will not be judged. So it's important to avoid judgmental language when discussing others' actions. It's important to express the experience, describe the experience, rather than just using label. Even sometimes we can use positive labels. If I say, oh, he is generous. When I say he is generous, that is judgment. If somebody has done something I really appreciate, I will say, oh, when I saw him giving money to a beggar, or when I saw him giving money to somebody who was in need, I was really inspired. If the person hears me describing the positive action he or she has performed, the person is likely to be more inspired and feel more appreciated by my expression, rather than just saying the person is generous. If I say he is hardworking, nonviolent communication invites me to describe the action the person performed, which I am labeling hardworking. So practicing active listening is also important. It fosters deep relationships. If we learn to listen, not just listening, deep listening involves paying attention to the need the person is expressing. When somebody comes to you, even if the person didn't say anything, the person is expressing a need, even without saying anything. Deep listening helps us to understand people's needs, even when they are not speaking. Responding with grace rather than reacting in anger. With nonviolent communications, when we learn these skills, no matter how somebody expresses himself or herself, you still stay connected to your need to contribute to peace without reacting in anger. Stay connected to yourself. Connect with your own needs. When you have built that connection with yourself, you can go to the person and respond in a non-violent way. Seeking mutual understanding instead of assuming intentions. I go back to the story of the oranges. Instead of saying, oh, he is selfish, I can describe, oh, I noticed you picked 3 oranges. I'm wondering why you did that. I am giving the person the space to explain. Through that, we can get to mutual understanding. So in the Bible, Jesus have already lived this life of non-violence, and he has given us example on how to live a life of non-violence, how to communicate in a non-violent way. If we remember the story of Jesus and the woman caught in adultery, Jesus responds with empathy rather than condemnation. When they brought this woman to him, she was judged as somebody who committed adultery. Jesus tried to connect with the need of the woman. The woman her need could be need for love, need for understanding, need for support. And Jesus was able to identify these needs and was able to support her in meeting those needs. The Good Samaritan, compassion over judgment. Somebody was robbed and was almost killed. People were passing. A priest passed. He didn't do anything. These are people we expected to be compassionate and so on. Again, a Samaritan came and connected with the need of this person, need for survivor, need for support, and supported this person. This is what today we are being called to do. And in Catholic social teaching, it's called solidarity, supporting one another, getting in touch with the needs of people, no matter how they express themselves. They are just telling you, please help me to meet my need. And when you are able to support them without judging them, whether they say thank you or not, you see that satisfaction, which is thank you for helping me to meet my need. Even when Peter denied Jesus, Jesus forgave him because Peter was trying even to meet a need by denying Jesus. He was also trying to meet his need to survive. He doesn't know whether they will kill him if he says he is a follower of Jesus. Jesus connected with that need and still forgave Peter. Need for collaboration for Jesus. So what are the practical steps we need to cultivate these skills of nonviolent communication? Pause before speaking to reflect on words. This is something I've been practicing for years. I'm still learning it because for 46 years of my life, I have been exposed to communicating in terms of right and wrong. So I am still learning this language. At the same time, it's not something we can do in a day. It's just constant effort. Sometimes when I miss it, I remember one song or one poem. Though I fail, I weep. Though I halt in pace, yet I creep to the throne of grace. I will not give up. So keep trying. You are already making tiny steps. This presentation is not something new. It's just to, again, remind us of what we have been doing, and we need to do more. We cannot be perfect here on earth until we get to the throne of grace. Use I statements instead of blaming. I feel hot. Express your feeling. I really feel sad because I really expected connection, understanding. Express your feelings and the need that was unmet. Through that, you can get into dialogue with the other. Pray for wisdom and patience in difficult conversations. Dialogue. Try to listen to the needs people are trying to express to you, even when they express it in a way that is not pleasant to you. So how can we practice MVC in our personal relationships? Relationship is with myself first. If I have not been able to cultivate that personal relationship with myself, I cannot cultivate meaningful relationship with the other. That is why when you enter a plane, you are asked, put on your oxygen mask first before you help the other person. Develop relationship with yourself first. Connect with your needs. When you know your needs, you are able to connect with the needs of the other person. So it's important to constantly connect with our needs. So embracing nonviolent communication fosters a more Christ-like way of communication rather than just judging in terms of right and wrong. Avoiding judgment aligns with Jesus' teachings of love and grace. We all have the same needs. Even if someone is telling you you are stupid, the person is trying to express a need, maybe for connection or whatsoever needs. Turning to the person in a compassionate way, we can change that person, and the person will be surprised that despite using a violent language to communicate his or her needs to us, we are still able to stay connected to ourselves and respond in compassion. Let your speech always be with grace. I conclude with this. Thanks for listening. Yes.
I can use this.
Anybody got any questions?
One word struck me very much. You used the word listening. And I think listening is so important. And you don't listen to sort out whether you like something or not. You've got to listen with an open heart. And I think that's very difficult. Can be very difficult.
Listening could really be difficult until we really, if we are able to understand what it means to listen. It's not something we just cultivate one day. It's constant practice. Before, I didn't know how to listen. Somebody could be talking to me. I would say, okay, I'm listening. I'm doing something else. Listening involves listening with your whole being. You are there with the person, offering the person your presence, no matter what you are doing. Look at the person, listen with your being. Through that, you are able to connect. Because what people express using words is not up to what they are not expressing without words. So when we really focus and listen with attention, we will be able to really get what the person is trying to speak. It's an act that one can gradually cultivate through listening and through practicing.
Okay, I loved it, what you were saying. It's very challenging, but okay, one has to start somewhere. And sometimes it's easier to cope with, if this example of I'm busy, you immediately recognize that that's not what you should be saying. So you then turn it and say, as long as a person stays there, and you can say, I'm so sorry, what is it you wanted to say? You can go with that. But if you're the other person saying you're too busy, and that then develops into a animated discussion, like an argument, and you realize that you need to get out of the argument, but you can't find the words, is it sometimes actually okay to just walk away until you calm down, and then you go back? Well, that's the difficulty, is to walk away from a problem of speech and maybe come back to it. And I know Jesus was very good at, like, the woman in adultery and the denial and all that, but it was Jesus, so he actually got it right. Whereas we get it wrong and can make a situation worse until we've practiced a bit. So sometimes, is it okay to walk away from it and get our heads out and then come back?
At that moment again, no matter how angry one may be, one can tell, at this moment, I'm really not able to continue with this conversation. Maybe for now, we keep it at that. we can continue later. It's still a way of, even if you are angry, it's still a way of rehumanizing the other without just walking away in that angry manner. Again, it requires awareness and be able to stay connected to your needs at that moment.
Sometimes being judgmental when you're confronting evil must be correct. I feel that I'm like most people, perhaps being very judgmental about President Putin and his invasion of Ukraine, and in fact how he's treating dissidents in his own country. It makes me very angry, like everybody else. But I think that judgment is surely correct, is it not, if you're confronting evil?
I think even if we are trying to correct evil and again using judgmental language, that again does not give us the license to judge, because we are not aware of the circumstances surrounding the person that is acting, the person we are judging. So it's important again to express your needs. There is what is called value judgment. Value judgment is not moralistic. It has to do with expressing your needs. For example, if I look at the situation, let's say I want to speak in relation to what is going on in Ukraine, I can say I really feel worried by the strategies the president of Ukraine and Russia are really using, which is not supporting people. So in that case, I am expressing my feeling of worry, and I am not making a moralistic judgment. I am making a value judgment, expressing how I feel about the situation, and also trying to connect with my need. It doesn't really meet my need for meaning or support or whatever. Because if you look at the strategies they are using, this country deploying soldiers to the other country to kill people, eventually, if they decide to cease fire, they are still going to come back to the table of dialogue, to dialogue. Why are they at all using the strategy of killing one another? So again, all these have to do with communication. If people learn the skills or have the understanding that there are unmet needs at stake, what are the exact or the peaceful strategies that could be used for meeting these needs? There will be no need for going for war. Even though it may take some time to really dialogue, it's important for, first of all, people to have the understanding of what unmet needs are present. Through that, people are able to use the strategy of dialogue rather than going for war. Because when there is war, principle of discrimination is not followed. Both military and civilians are killed. Proportionality is not there, because these people may be using gun while others will be using bomb. Again, when you use these strategies, it's very, very disastrous to human beings and the environment. Again, the importance of dialogue and connecting with needs. What do we need? What will actually support us?
Thank you very much. I enjoyed your talk immensely. I thought it was very practical. My brother recently had a stroke, and he lives on his own, and he makes his own decisions. The hospital has done a very good job on him, and he's making a very good recovery. But he wants to come off one of the pills that the doctors have ordered him to have, because it reckons it has a side effect which he doesn't want. And he's going to do something else, a herbal medicine or something. Well, I was trying to remonstrate with him not to do this. And it wasn't long before we were at loggerheads. And so your talk about how to keep a cool head in these things is very apposite. But when you think about it, I think it's perhaps helped to find out why it is that we have this negative feeling. Now, if you were to say to me, oh, Christopher, you're stupid, I would take offense. But let's just say it happened that I didn't hear you for some reason, then nothing would be the result. So the negativity, the feeling I have, isn't in the words, it's what they do to my sense of who I am, my identity. And therefore, whenever we have talk which challenges the identity of one of the parties, that's where the problems arise. We are identified very, very much so with our own view of ourselves. And this is, it seems to me, where the root of the problem lies, and your very helpful suggestions to say how we might circumvent this, but to know that it is to do not so much with insults as such, but our view of ourselves, different view, are threatened.
Thank you for your sharing. So listening to you, what I heard from you is about what the negative things we hear, what it does to our own identity. Something again I've learned from nonviolent communication is we have 4 ears for listening to a difficult message. When you hear a difficult message, if someone says to me, Lilian, you are stupid, I have 4 ears to hear this message. First one is to really take it personal that the person is referring to me. So when I use this ear, I feel angry. The second ear is to connect with, I've forgotten how it is. However, what I'm trying to say is, when you hear a difficult message, it's not really about you, it's about the person's needs. If I say, Father Jerome, you are selfish, it's not about him, it's about my need for consideration. So this has really helped me to hear what people are saying to me. It's not really about me, it is about their own needs. So this awareness is helping me not to really take what people say personal, or what the way people act as personal. They are trying to express their needs. So this awareness is something that can really be of help. I don't know if this, to an extent, answer your question.
It wasn't so much a question as more an observation, really. Yeah. I mean, I think you've set out very clearly and helpfully how we might tackle this. But I just thought it helps as well to see at a deeper level what might be working in each of us.
Thank you very much for this contribution.
Apropos of you saying about Father Jerome possibly he is selfish, which he's not. But if that was true, if he really is selfish, and people say about, I try to get through and talk about, oh, he's so selfish, he just won't do it. If that's like a general opinion of how a person is it that we have no right, therefore, to try and help them to change? You do realize I don't think for 1 minute that you're selfish. But, do we actually have a right for community to help people when they are actually not what God would want them to be?
For me, there is a way I can do that in such a way that will be supportive for me and also for the person. I will not go to the person and say, you are selfish. I will rather describe the action and express my worry that, let's say, for instance, I notice the Mass, we're supposed to begin Mass by 8 in the morning, and I have noticed 5 times, instead of the Mass beginning by 8, it's 8:30. I'm really worried and try to check what it could be. So I will be shocked to hear what he will explain to me. Again, it has to do with describing the action rather than just labeling it and everybody is having that opinion. And again, I cannot change another person. I can only change myself and connect with my unmet needs and try to see what will help me to address that needs. My opinion about the other person is not really about that person, it's about my own needs. I can take care of my needs and change myself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sister. Answer. Another one, is there? You will if we want to. Can I just ask a question? You've unpacked a great deal. You've unpacked a great deal. And it requires a great deal of patience and time. And this thing requires digestion and time. I'm just wondering, in a world that is increasingly instant, with messaging and warning and other means of communication, if perhaps we might think that we're facing increasing non-violent communication is facing an increasing headwind.
I didn't fully get what you were saying. Would you be willing to repeat it?
Can you use the microphone, please?
Thank you.
I was merely asking, in a world that is increasingly instant in its communication, that something that requires digestion and thought and care is facing an increasing headwind of inability to achieve it because the need is for now an instant gratification. And I wondered if that was what you thought as well.
What I heard you say, that the way the world is today, that it will be very difficult to achieve this method of communication. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, it's not easy. It's a gradual process. Awareness, again, is what can help people, and constant practice. It really requires commitment. Yeah. Because when you look at the world today, people are doing different things. It just depends on how you really want to relate with the world and with yourself. So I found this method of communication helping me to cope with the realities of today, that when things happen, instead of going to blame myself, how can you be so stupid? I go deeper to connect with my needs. is first of all about me. When I am able to understand my needs, change the paradigm within me, I can share it with others. I cannot change the other person, neither can I change the whole world. I can change myself. So if each person begins to make these tiny, tiny steps, I think together we can create a ripple effect.
Thank you very much, Sister, for this evening. Before I invite Deacon Gerard to give the vote of thanks and say the final prayer, we would appreciate your offerings this evening. There is a basket at the back, and there is one in the refreshment room. So if you'd like to make a donation towards the Emmaus, then please do so. I've just been handed this Bible, which was left here last time after the last Emmaus talk. Does it belong to anybody? I'll take it through to the refreshment area. Thank you.
Sister Lilian, I'd just like to thank you very much for your thought-provoking talk and the discussions afterwards. It's left us to think about how we do communicate. What is communication with compassion, what it really means. And I suppose it's left me with a few thoughts myself, thoughts about how do I receive what I hear? Do I use the gifts and the fruits of the Holy Spirit in my response? How do I respond? And how do I respond, if you like, despite myself or because of myself or my own preconceptions? And that's really a difficult thing to think about and reflect. And I suppose trying to draw my own thoughts together, I was thinking about our synodal approach, our approach of gracious listening and our approach of respect, and really trying to find out what people are saying and how people are talking, and not just reacting just off the cuff, really absorbing what people are saying. And then I thought about the readings of the Gospel on the first Sunday of Lent and the second Sunday of Lent next week, and the third and fourth Sunday of Lent, the temptation of the Lord, the transfiguration, the fig tree, the prodigal son, and thinking about how Jesus communicated with us in all different ways, in so many ways of non-verbal communication. And then it just brought me back to our Jubilee and thinking about Catholic social teaching. And I think at the end I might read the Jubilee prayer, but before I do, I'd like to thank you very much for all you've done for us and to be with us tonight. So thank you very much. The Jubilee Prayer. Father in heaven, may the faith you have given us in your Son, Jesus Christ our brother, and the flame of charity enkindled in our hearts by the Holy Spirit, reawaken in us the blessed hope for the coming of your kingdom. May your grace transform us into tireless cultivators of the seeds of the gospel. May those seeds transform from within both humanity and the whole cosmos, in the sure expectation of a new heaven and a new earth, when with the powers of evil vanquished, your glory will shine eternally. May the grace of this Jubilee reawaken in us, pilgrims of hope, a yearning for the treasures of heaven. May that same grace spread the joy and peace of our Redeemer throughout the earth. To you, our God, eternally blessed, be glory and praise forever. And let us say together, the glory be. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, as now and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Go now and live the gospel in non-verbal communication as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.